Oh wait, I gotta edit the name of the. Uh, all right, going public. Done and save. Dope. We're good.
Hell yeah. Oh, there we are.
Yep, we are live. All right.
Let
Dope.
me post that.
So I got the chat going. I'm going to go ahead and type in a welcome right here. You got the thing going. All right. So we're solid. This is our first thanks for playing video game recording rather
Live
than
episode.
yeah, live episodes yeah, exactly. Live episode rather than a anything's possible live episode. So sounds good, man.
Hell
We
yeah,
should
brother.
clap in.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Um,
Three, three, two, one. All right. Sick, man. That was good.
we're
That
getting
was
better
good.
at that. We really are.
All right. Ready when you are, man.
Cool. Hey, everyone. It's Matt,
And this is Lucas,
and this is Thanks for Playing.
the podcast where we break down the most iconic video games the world has to offer.
Oh! I don't know why. I really had to conjure that one up. My voice wasn't
Yeah.
ready for it.
It was a good one. It was a go. Actually, like, was conscious to, like, not hear it as loud, if that makes sense. I didn't lower my volume. I just told my brain not to
I
hear
was
it.
really trying harder to back up more this time,
It didn't help.
'cause,
It didn't
I
help.
know I kind of broke everyone's ears when we had Johnny on, so.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh man.
Matt, I'm super super excited right now because this is actually being live streamed out to our YouTube audience via our YouTube channel. Thanks for playing.
I know. I know. We're multimedia podcasters now.
Yeah, that's right.
We're upping the bandwidth of our podcast. I don't think that's the right word, and we're expanding. And the great thing about this is, Lucas, the VODs will just be there now magically when we want them to.
I know it's
We
pretty
we don't
awesome.
have to worry about us going in and editing them, and maybe even the better part, perhaps, I don't know, they're raw, unfiltered, unedited.
I know.
So if we fuck up, man, it's there.
They're gonna
They're gonna
well
know.
they're gonna know, but we will get it in post. But the live
Yeah,
recording people, the people watching right now, all of the concurrent viewers will, of course, get to see our live recording, get to see any screw ups or any bloopers. Pretty exciting for them.
pretty daunting for us, but yeah,
I know.
exciting
I know.
stuff.
To make
Exciting
us better.
stuff. It'd be sick though if one of the viewers, if they left a review on the podcast on maybe iTunes, or maybe followed on Spotify. Maybe I'll read it out loud if they leave a review. I don't know. Could happen. Could be weird. Could be fun. Food for thought. And hey, or maybe you want to give us a game suggestion. Shoot us an email. Thanks for playing pod, gmail.com. And as
That's right.
always, Twitter, Instagram, TFP Podcasts. That's TFP Podcasts with an S at the end.
All right.
All
And
right.
since we are live streaming, thanks for the plug. We
Thank you.
always need
Yeah.
those at the very beginning. We're getting better at the plugs. To be honest.
Oh, we're on Stitcher now too, and we have a Discord.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
about
Thank
sums it
you.
up. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the Discord's very important. Honestly, if you were to go to anything, I would highly recommend the Discord. We're going to be posting all of the live stream links there. That way, you get the notifications. You have that Discord app on your phone. You're going to get the notifications straight from me and Matt. Definitely turn those notifications on for that particular Discord channel, so that every time we go live on a night like tonight, you can join us on our YouTube channel. Also, go to YouTube and subscribe. You will get those notifications about the live streams that are happening there as well. Feel free to join in the chat on episodes like this. We will be doing Q&As on occasion if people are in the chat and really interacting with us. Of course, we're going to be getting down to business today, doing a proper game review, just me and Matt. We haven't done one of these, just me and Matt. Feels like a little while. Our last episode that came out was Alan Wake, by far our longest episode, and we did have a guest on that one. And Johnny Panic, in the Discord server.
He's in the
Friend of,
Discord.
he's in the
Yeah.
Discord, official friend of the pod. Great episode. Kind of the opposite game of what we're going through today. I might say.
Very, very much the opposite in terms of what kind of game it is, right?
Right.
So drum roll, please. I don't know how to do a drum. I was gonna try and I was gonna roll my tongue to make a drum roll, but that doesn't work. But that's right, everyone.
Wait, hang on. We
Oh?
can actually do a drum roll.
Oh,
Okay, ready?
okay. Oh, that's right, everyone. Today we're talking about the number one blinking simulator before your eyes, published by Skybound Games and developed by Goodbye World. Oddly a fitting name. Well, you can maybe get into that later.
Seriously. Yeah. This is a April 2021 game. It's actually the newest game we've ever done for the pod. It came out very, very recently, just about a month and a half ago. It's already kind of getting a lot of attention throughout the video game world here.
Yes.
And it's got an 8 out of 10 on GameSpot. It's got an 8.5 on Game Informer. It's got a criminal 76 out of 100 on Metacritic.
It was disgustingly low, some of them. I was kind of
and
like, what
honestly,
the hell?
One, I think it was Edge or Eurogamer gave it a 5 out of 10, and I just really rolled my eyes at that one there. And yeah,
For context, let's see what Cyberpunk reviews got initially, right?
yeah, I'm sure Cyberpunk got more. I'm sure the yearly Call of Duty got the legally obligated Call of
Legally
Duty
obligated.
release probably got more than that. And yeah, it just irrationally upset me, kind of looking through a couple of those key review,
Yeah,
key
it's
review
bizarre. So yeah,
publishers.
Cyberpunk got higher, and which is upsetting, and I'll forever regret giving Cyberpunk a 8. Every time I give another game an 8, I'm like, I need to retroactively go back and give Cyberpunk
Lower
like a
your
6 or a
Cyberpunk.
7.
That's right. Yeah, I can't believe you gave that one an 8.
I had fun with it, but in retrospect, yeah. But yeah, disgustingly low scores from, in my opinion, probably overly critical people that were maybe, I don't even want to say asking too much, but I don't know, just being
Found aspects of the
pretentious.
Yeah, I think found aspects of the game that were really easy to nitpick.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Some of these people just they might not have been human beings. I'm gonna go into that a little bit when we jump into game design. My initial thoughts. I'll just jump right in.
Really
I think,
quickly, let's
go
give the
ahead.
people a brief
The
overview
synopsis. I know. I
of
always
the
skip
game. You
synopsis.
get
I'm
excited.
sorry.
I get it.
I know.
It
I
happens.
know. I know.
Yeah.
They need
all
to
right.
know what we're talking about.
They
first, so
need
go
to
ahead and
know
give it
what
to
we're
'em.
talking about. So everyone, as always, light spoilers will ensue within this little explanation here, and periodically spoilers will ensue throughout the podcast as well. Something to be mindful of and to be aware of if you want to play this game. And really quickly, hello, Emre Sagir, if I'm saying your name correctly. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. That's awesome. All right, everyone. So brief explanation of before your eyes forgot the game for a sec. So Benjamin Bryn, a recently departed soul to the afterlife, floats on a dark sea where they encounter a mysterious ferryman. Unable to speak, the ferryman and Benny are forced to communicate via blinking. Benny is unable to speak, not the ferryman. The ferryman reveals that they are bringing Benny to the gatekeeper, and if judged well, they will be allowed to enter into the gatekeeper's paradise. But if judged poorly, they'll be turned into a seagull, caw, caw, and doomed to forever roam the dark sea with the ferryman. Whoa.
Whoa.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
So the basic premise is that you are a soul brought on to the ferry and going to be taken to get judged, right?
Yes.
And the ferryman tells you, and the ferryman has a lot of personality himself. He's an anthropomorphized fox, I guess, with like part of his ear sort of bitten off or ripped off.
I thought he was a
and
dog.
Dog, whatever. He's got animal-like ears that are pointy, and he kind of has like this gruff sense about him. He's sort of like a fisherman. Clearly, he's been on this boat for longer than he would care to be on that boat for, and he's a little jaded
Yes.
too. And he basically gives you the lowdown. Hey, we're gonna go through your life and see if you're worthy enough to get into heaven. It's kind of what he tells you, and he says that every time you go through the moments in your life, starting from the beginning, if you blink, it will move forward. Okay, could go forward 5 minutes, could go forward 5 years, but you will always move forward. You cannot stay in the same moment forever. Um, off the bat, that's like the first 5 minutes of the game. That's the initial setup. So it's all kind of explained to you very outright, very clear what's going on, and it's just really, really, truly incredible. I can't believe I'm jumping into my initial thoughts now. I cannot believe what this game did to me. I had probably the most emotional reaction I've ever had to a piece of media. I have a feeling, I know that I've been more emotional in certain moments of my life when certain things have happened to me, heartbreak or, loss or tragedy and things like that. But as far as an actual piece of media, this really, really unlocked something in me. I
Hmm.
know that story is the obvious main component to an experience like this. There is not a whole lot of mechanical depth and things like that. And I want to dive into the blinking mechanics a little bit later, but I do think that it would not have worked if blinking was not a part of it. It's very
Definitely.
it's very
Yeah.
intrinsic. Yeah, I think it's fully tied. Um, it's just sheer emotional value for a game, and I really really loved it.
The experience can't be fully had without using the webcam and using the blinking mechanics and everything like that. And it's just such a phenomenal game and the way it implements that, right? I mean, I think there'd be a lot of really cheesy ways to maybe implement blinking into games with the webcam. And to give full context, everyone, this game you should be if to get the full experience, you want to play it with a webcam. And then while you're playing it, the main mechanic, like I said, is blinking. So your webcam is literally tracking your blinking, and that's the main mechanic to move you forward throughout the game. And it's such a unique concept, and I think it's something that could have easily been glossed over in gaming and used for like a gimmick and like party games or something like that. But it was implemented so well here, and that's why I do want to give a little credit to where the game, how it was originally conceived, and kind of where it all came from originally. And interestingly, Lucas, I think you're gonna like this. This game kind of has a similar development cycle to one of our other favorites here on the podcast, Outer Wilds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like Outer Wilds, and I think I'm remembering this correctly. Let me know if I'm wrong, but like Outer Wilds, this game was actually originally conceived in an intro to game development class in 2014 over at USC. And I don't think Outer Wilds was intro to game, but USC, same difference.
Oh my God! So
Um,
they were both introduced as like the core concepts were both introduced into
at
USC.
USC, yep.
Okay,
And
USC.
a student assistant there, Will Hayworth, was talking about how he wanted to modify a game to read and respond to the player's eyes using a built in camera, otherwise, your webcam. So, two students, in addition to Will, would then team up with Hellworth to develop this project surrounding this idea, which eventually, in a short 2 months, they released the very much like the, alpha level version of this, a project called just Close Your. That was the initial running title of this game, was just Close Your. And they eventually presented it to IndieCade, and they went on to win Developers Choice Award at that show. And it was later presented at the Independent Games Festival at GDC in 2015, where it won Best Student Game. And of course, as with any indie game, they got noticed. People were excited. People are talking about them. So after the exhibitions and all that, they decided to start a Kickfunder to fund the project in 2016. And of course, given
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, what did I say? Kickfunder.
Kickfunder,
That could work.
crowdfunding, Kickstarter.
Crowdfunding, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Kickstarter,
yeah,
yeah.
you're close.
So the project was successfully funded, of course, and it was while it was originally slated for a 2017 release, they really struggled with development all the way through 2018. But eventually they did receive additional funding from Riot, and they were able to continue to work on developing this game to bring it to the product that we have today. So what we have today,
Awesome.
Lucas, is a 7-year development cycle.
That is a
Nutty, right?
long, long
Yeah.
development cycle. Yeah, and I mean, I'd say I'm glad that it got completed. I'm so grateful to live in a world where this game exists. I'm glad that Will Hellworth is the director of the game, and I think he's the lead at Skybound. Or no, I'm sorry, Goodbye World Games. I'm so glad that he teamed up with the writer. The writer is Graham Parks, screenwriter, filmmaker, actually based out in LA. They're both in Southern California. I'm not sure if they met through school specifically, but probably running within similar circles within like the film, cutting edge gaming LA world. Seems to be a lot of Santa Monica studios, a lot of like really
Yeah.
solid game development happening in Santa
Yeah.
Monica, which kind of warms my heart. Actually living so close to it.
Oh, do you live
But
in
yeah,
LA, bro?
Oh yeah, did I not mention that, bro?
Oh, bro, sick.
Yeah, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that it made it through its troubling development cycle and really made it all the way to the end here.
Yeah, it would have been such a shame if something like as unique as this in a gem, as much as this, fell through. So I'd count the world very lucky that this
Yeah.
one worked out. But going back more into initial thoughts too, like it really does captivate you immediately, right? Um, the game presents itself; it's immediately like this kind of quirky, like interesting thing, and the art style is so unique in that it's not like I wouldn't. It's almost like surreal, right? But
Yeah, especially the beginning.
cartoon surrealism is like the best way I could think to describe it, where it's this very unique style, and then that style is continues throughout the game and is
Yeah.
like really used to kind of I think it's almost like you're playing the game and you're seeing it through a child's eyes, right? And it's kind of like that's how you view the world when you're younger. It's like this surrealist thing, like you're learning everything and you're experiencing all these new things, and it just
It's really
works.
great. Yeah, and I think the beginning especially like establishes it really well because the beginning does have a very surrealist feel to it because like you're in a ferry. There's
Yes.
like a giant tower where you're going to be judged at that you can kind of see in the distance. The ferryman is an anthropomorphized like cat dog animal thing talking to you, and you're a disembodied soul. So it's gonna have that kind of that's how the game starts. And then it kind of has like a painting style feel to the art. Feels very watercolory.
Yes.
No one scene in the game, and the game has dozens and dozens of scenes. No one scene is fully fleshed out. There's always a little bit of that edge, fluff, and fuzz, kind of like the kind of fuzziness that memories have, where you don't remember the full picture, but you remember a small tunnel visioned version of a memory.
Basically,
Uh,
exactly how you'd recount a memory from your childhood, right? Like you're not going to
yes.
remember it exactly, but you're going to remember certain parts, or kind of remember what you want to remember, and kind of forget what you want to forget, which
Yeah.
is very much implemented into the game in the form of repressed memories, which eventually get uncovered as you play the game more and
Isn't
more.
that wild? The
Yeah.
game actually, yeah, and I think that's what's really great about it is it takes memory very seriously. It takes like memory to all these different places. You actually run through your life, and you don't know that. We're gonna jump into the spoiler territory, everybody. So if you want to play this game, you can hit pause on the podcast now, and go play the game and come back and listen to this later. But um, it's not known that you're a child that
Right.
has passed
Yeah.
away too early at the very beginning. You actually are shown a version of life that you wish you had, where you wish that you grew up and you wish that you went through all these different things. And it turns out you're kind of lying to the ferryman in the way that you're remembering your own life. And then it's revealed that you did die when you were very young, due to a unknown, terminal illness. And you sort of wish that you had this life, but you unfortunately did not. So you have like so many types of heavy-hearted things going on. Repressed memory, a life that you wish you had. That those are kind of feelings that we all kind of have at one point or another, I think. And just the childhood terminal illness thing just hits really, really hard, especially when you are that child. So you're experiencing death very early on, and you're seeing life slip away from you, especially near the end of the game. It's very heavy stuff.
Unbelievably heavy, and I want to get into kind of like the game design a little bit and talk about how that really is implemented into the game. So, to reiterate, as Lucas and I had mentioned previously, the main mechanic in the game is blinking. You use your mouse a little bit,
To look around,
to look
to like,
around.
yeah.
This game would be great in VR. I don't know if there's a VR version, by the way, but that'd be really interesting if there
I didn't
was.
see that. Yeah.
But the main mechanic is blinking. That's how you progress through the story. That's how you uncover certain objects while you're sitting in the memories. And it's not like forgiving in the sense that, oh, you get ample time to explore these memories, right? You may get one line of dialogue, and then you start seeing the metronome at the bottom of the screen ticking back and forth, back and forth. And in that moment, fuck, I can't,
If you blink,
I can't
yeah,
blink. If I blink, the memory's gone.
yeah.
And I mean, I found myself struggling with this, and I mean, on one note, because I'd just taken out my contacts and my eyes were super dry right before I played, so I couldn't really keep them open very long. But it makes you engage in the game in a way that isn't really experienced in other games because there's not really that thing of you have to physically
Totally.
stress yourself, you have to cause yourself physical not harm but discomfort to stay in the moment and to uncover more of the story, to uncover more of the memories that you're diving through to understand what Benjamin Brenn's story is. And I mean, I can tell you there were so many points where I was just like, like
Yeah, yeah, I know.
like
You're trying to keep your
ah.
eyes open. I know, I know.
And there was
And
even one point too where I was like, maybe if I just like back up out of the screen a little bit, it'll let me
yeah,
do it, but I still
basically,
like catch any blinks.
if your webcam loses track of your eyes for a moment, then it's considered like a blink. So even if you look away or back away or put your head down or something, then it will count that as a blink, and you leave that memory. Yeah, I mean, as far as that's the only real game mechanic, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
blinking is taking the function of clicking. So you move your mouse and then you input a click or an action, quote unquote, using a blink, which is an inevitable body function. The ferryman actually says this: is he says, the thing about blinking is that it is inevitable. It will happen eventually. So there's this very natural, slow progression of every time you blink, you move forward in time, and you have to blink. The human body has to. And if you want to stay within a moment or get more extra information inside that memory, well, guess what? You have to feel physical bodily discomfort by keeping your eyes open for an extended period of time.
Yes.
And we were just talking about this before we started recording. Is what happens when you keep your eyes open for too long? Your eyes start watering naturally, and your body almost is in some discomfort, and your eyes are watering, and I think this was a true intention behind the game designers here. Is how like they say, if you're not happy but you start smiling anyway, you trick your brain into thinking that you're happy, and it can like release chemicals that are associated with a
Mm-hmm.
smile
Yeah.
even though you're not happy. It's sort of like a reverse engineering of the feeling. I do think that was intended. With you hold your eyes open for longer, your eyes water, and you naturally have a sadness to it, because that's your body's way of being of expressing sadness, right? Is a tearing up eye. So I think that there's a little bit of like Pavlovian conditioning, that, oh my god, I'm crying right now, or am I don't know, I'm in pain though. And it's kind of crazy, because the game starts crossing, because of the game design, because of the blinking mechanic, the game starts crossing the line between emotional pain, because the game is quite emotional and quite heavy, between emotional pain and then the physical discomfort or physical pain. It's really a incredible blend that the game hits. I really really liked it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's I don't know why these people and these game reviews are calling it like gimmicky or whatever. I mean, the only argument I can give against this game is that there were points where I'm very confident I didn't blink, but maybe I like winced a little bit, so it was maybe a little bit of sensitive. But it's a newer technology; you can only be so critical of it, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think, and for the most part, it did work very well. I can only think of two specific instances where it didn't, where I blinked and it missed it, and then I
Yeah.
was trying to blink at a very specific object and it missed it. It's a pretty important one that I missed,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But um,
This game was reviewed by Screen Rant,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah,
It kind of makes sense. It's sort of a hour and a half long, 2 hour long, story driven experience. So it's reviewed by Screen Rant. Scott Baird over at Screen Rant actually compared this to a gimmicky Skyward Sword Wii Motion Plus control, and I just got to contest that a little bit, because I do think that. Something like Zelda, or even the Wii in general, where you had to move the Wii remote in a very specific way,
yeah.
with your body, in order to move past a certain obstacle in your way. Um, I get that. It's more of like a problem solving. I got to slash at a 90-degree angle right now, so I'm going to move my body so that I slash at a 90-degree angle. This is like more, I think, hitting the heart of it, where like something like a lot of the Wii games hit a physicality that they were trying to induce in the video game. I think Before Your Eyes is trying to induce something a little more subtle, in the human experience, which is having to do with our eyes, having to do with wanting to keep our eyes open for certain moments,
Yes.
because you experience moments and you remember things visually, and then when you want to stay in those moments, you want to keep your eyes open, and then you're in physical discomfort because you want to live in that moment. That's just a really beautiful concept to nail down, I think. And I don't think it's a gimmick. I think it's intrinsic to the experience here. I don't. I don't know if it can be like necessarily replicated again, or if other games will do this, or if this is just a once in a lifetime thing with this game. But I do think that it just, here's the idea, here's the experience, here's the mechanic. It works.
What I love about it too is that it really plays to the theme of your life flashing before your eyes, because this is a recently departed soul. This is someone that's died, and you're replaying your life, and the idea of, as you blink, your life flashes before your eyes. Is It's just all very intrinsic and kind of like the stereotypes we hear about, like when someone's getting close to that point of death and things like that. And in that regard, it just works so well. And I really do want to compliment the story too, because I mean, I was immediately drawn into the game in general as well, just because I thought it was a very interesting concept. But up until the point where you find out Benny is telling um, not a truthful story at first. Up until that point, I was like, oh, I can kind of see how this is going. Like, spoilers ensue. The mom's gonna pass. I'm gonna pass away. He's gonna meet the love of his life. It's gonna be all great. It's gonna end up being a happy story in the end. But then, in kind of almost a not demonic, but like a very when you get called up by the ferryman, there's a very clear tonal shift in the game. And the ferryman, well, he presents himself as an ally at first. They suddenly become like this, not antagonistic force, but this like the devil on your, or the angel on your shoulder, and like the devil on your shoulder at the same time. Like, I'm here to
Yeah.
help you, but I know you're lying. Don't fuck with me. You're gonna fuck this up for both of us, type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
you want to end up like the seagulls, huh?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, that was cool. Yeah, he
Yeah.
sort of gets the truth out of you. So he's kind of, it's, yeah, exactly. He's the bad cop, but he serves a function there to trying to get the truth out of you, you know. So totally works. I think that,
Incredibly well.
yeah,
Incredibly
this the
well.
story is really great because there is that sort of 180 that happens where you think the story is supposed to be about you kind of going through your life, experiencing regular things, getting sick, becoming a great artist, going to art school, becoming famous for it, eventually going through some loss with your mother passing away too early, too young, your father suffering through it, you suffering through the trauma of that, and then eventually running into your old neighbor who is like the love of your life. And then it turns out none of that happened, you know, and you have to go back and relive and just feel stuck in this like bed. And turns out you're just a terminally ill kid that tried to write a story of your life, and oh man, I'm getting chills just thinking about the story. And the way like the disease that's inside you is really expressed. Doctor's office visits, your mother crying behind closed doors, the emotional turmoil between the mother and the father, again behind closed doors, is there. Everything's there. Like all the components of, you know, a very very tough event and a very heavy subject matter like this are shown, you know, and expressed from the perspective of a child, and you're that child. The story is just really, really something. You know, there are no like very famous examples of movies that handle child terminal illnesses. First one that comes to mind is probably like Lorenzo's Oil. I think that most people watch that one in high school. But I think this one manages to get the audience a little closer to home, because you're literally the child, right?
Yeah.
It's like childhood illness meets like Pixar art meets like video game I am that guy first person.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it just
Immersive
kind of hits the
experience.
story kind
Yeah.
of hits all the right spots, I think. It's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. It hits home. And I'll be honest. I'll say now, Lucas, especially like in the last 20 minutes of this game, where you're experiencing, as we always have mentioned, you're experiencing it through the eyes of this child that is terminally ill. At this point, they're dying, and you're just overhearing these sad stories with your, not sad stories, excuse me, overhearing these sad conversations from your family. You have like your childhood friend come and visit you, and it's a very like heartwarming but sad exchange. You, the game in a very unique way kind of illustrates the pain the child is experiencing as well, with like a very kind of violent like ball of light that kind of starts
A
consuming you
ball of
unless you use the medicine.
light and sound kind of
Light and
hitting you.
sound.
Yeah.
And it's just so intense. And I remember all throughout that, in those last 20 minutes, I was just tearing up the whole
Yeah, me
time. And
too.
even when you get to the ending, and in the final ending screen, again, spoilers, in the final ending screen, you ultimately get accepted into, this game's version of what is essentially heaven. You get accepted by the gatekeeper, and then the ferryman kind of like on your side again, obviously helping you through all of this, kind of helping you sort through this trauma is like, you know what to do. Just close
Yeah.
your eyes.
Yeah.
And then you close your eyes and the music starts playing and you're choking up and you're trying to hold it together and you don't want to open your eyes because you don't want to leave the moment, and it's just,
Yeah.
oh my god. I remember even after the game I was crying for like 5 minutes, like tearing up
Me
still.
too.
I
Yeah. I had
remember
to
you
get
text
up.
me
I needed to
like,
take a shower.
bro.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
You're just like,
insane.
bro. Then I was like, bro, like I'm not. I already text you, bro. I am not okay.
Yeah. I actually, so I beat it before Matt. And then I played it one evening after work and just kind of got hit with a like hit by a semi truck of emotion while playing it. And then I think I immediately texted you and I was like, "Bro, this this is crazy."
Yeah,
And then
so
like
good.
I go to sleep later and Matt plays it that night and you know I wake up to the text and it just is like, "Bro, I'm not okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really something, and you know, I think that the director Will Hellworth, he's just very thoughtful when it comes to what he is involved in, what he creates. And I actually have an interview. I want to bring up a quote here from an interview from actually September 2020 that he had for Authority magazine by Penny Bowder. For those of you that don't know, Will Hellworth, he runs Goodbye Games. He's based out of Santa Monica. Went to USC for, I guess, USC Game School or School of
I'm
Interactive
not sure of
Design.
the specifics of like what his major was, but it was intro to like game design class basically.
Yeah, this is where he kind of discovered Oculus, early VR kind of things that were coming on. I think it was like pre-Oculus when like the project was sort of getting introduced to key people in certain industries. I think USC probably had the resources many years ago to kind of showcase
Yeah,
early VR
most
demos and
likely.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. And Will got involved in some of that stuff, and you know, Goodbye World Games is actually primarily focused in the AR VR space. But of course, like Matt said, kind of brought to the fold, you know, in a concept or core idea of using the player's eyes as a mechanic for inputs. So obviously, this is the type of person Will Hellworth that is, type of person that has a lot of thoughts. Clearly, a very smart individual. Has a lot of thoughts about games and their purpose and what they can do, and other media in general. I want to pull up a quote here he has on the mission of games, the purpose of games and his mission. Quote, I think people are very used to media, especially advertising, being manipulative, instructional, and above all, it's one way. While our interactive product isn't the entire focus of our company, it's my focus. For me, the goal is to create media that is a conversation and gives the user real agency, that is aware of the user in a meaningful way and uses that information to provide context for a social experience. I think that people will be expected to be more empowered, more in control of what they engage with, and start to demand that from the companies that make them feel manipulated. I think that above all, what makes Before Your Eyes really great for me, taking all this into account, is that it's sincere. It's
Yes.
truly a sincere story, you know, and we've played games that aren't as sincere, you know, stuff that's a little on the nose, kind of like silly, self-referential. Take into account, you know, something that has a really great story like a Stanley Parable, right, or like an Alan Wake even. Actually has a pretty decent story. Kind of thinking back on it more, you know, those stories are not necessarily sincere. You know, they're a little like self-referential, ironic. They're against naivety. They're against gooiness and kind of sentimentality and stuff like that.
Right.
They
Yeah.
seem to be a lot of things, and this is kind of a trait of like the late '90s, early 2000s. A lot of media that we had back then, especially popular television shows, being sentimental was like a death sentence. It was corny, it's lame, it's not cool. You don't do that. And then you start seeing more television shows emerge, more popular media emerge later that really leans into sentimentality and sincerity. And I think that this is just the perfect sentimental game. It hits all the right points. It's not trying to be heady or self-referential. There's no trick to it, really. Um, it's a genuine story. It has heart. It has highs. It has lows. It has redemption, and it makes you smile at the end. It's
Hmm.
not leaving you with a sour taste in your mouth. It's not a tragedy. I mean, it is a tragedy, right?
Yeah.
Like in just the by nature of it being a death of a sick child, but it's not. It's ultimately redeeming too, and very hopeful. And I think that Will Hellworth, after even reading his kind of mission on games, he cares about these kind of things. He cares about people feeling not feeling manipulated and feeling empowered when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I definitely felt after I played this game, that I felt good afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've made it pretty clear on this podcast in the past as well. I'm a huge fan of agency in games and kind of getting to control your experience in this game. And while this is kind of interesting, right? Because you do have a lot of agency in the game, but for the most part, for most of the part, the story in the game itself is actually very linear. But the way you operate within that story and the way how you get to kind of choose the pace of the game, excuse me, the way you get to choose the pace of the game, the way you get to choose what specific parts of the memory you interact with, all based on how long you can, in a sense, endure the memories, right? And how long you can keep your eyes open and manage that uncomfortability to stay in the moment and stay in the memory. That's such a unique take and a unique way to provide agency in games. Because typically, when you think of agency in games, right, you're thinking of like a Telltale game, right? Or
Hmm.
you're thinking of
Like a choose your own adventure
choose
game,
your
like
adventure,
Knox
like
Free.
or
Yeah.
Detroit Become Human, something like that, or like shit was the other one we played. I don't remember what it was called.
Oh,
A Way
Doki
Out,
Doki.
A Way Out, and Doki
Oh, wait,
Doki, right?
Doki Doki. Yeah.
Yeah, these are games that present agency through choice, whereas this is a game that presents agency. I'm not sure what the right word for it would be, but agency through experience in of itself,
That's very
through
good. That's a very good
interaction.
point. Yeah,
Um,
true.
I'm not sure if that's the best descriptor, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. It's experiencing agency in a totally different way rather than choosing A or B. You're experiencing A, but in your own unique way every time you play the game or you run through the story, which I think is just such a interesting spin on gaming in general, and something I love to see as I love seeing agency in games. So I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I completely agree with you too. You know, it's not agency by choosing choices on a dialogue tree. It's agency by nature of like human interaction with things, right?
And
Looking and
by nature of
looking at them.
natural human bodily functions, right?
Right, right.
I
It's
mean, they
so
say at the very
interesting.
beginning, like you're gonna blink,
Yeah,
right? like,
everyone
uh,
has to blink.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of the points here just inadvertently. I think we hit game design. We actually did hit art style, sound
I
design.
I do want to mention on art style too, really quickly. I love kind of at least this is kind of the sense I got from it with the way the art style is and the blinking mechanism and how it kind of it's almost like flipping through pages of a book. I kind of felt like as I blinked, I was flipping through pages of a children's book, which I just thought was a really interesting, unique kind of
Oh, I like that.
mechanism.
I like that
Yeah.
take. Yeah, that's true. It does feel like that because it's very saturated. It's very
Hmm.
colorful and watercolory too. So it kind of has that children's book allure, I'd
Hmm.
say. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point. Art style. I mean, I think I said it earlier. It's got a great cartoony, cel shaded, surrealist feel. Obviously that children's book style, and I don't think it really would have worked any other way. I think a realism style just wouldn't have been great. I think if they tried to lean into that, it might have been a little bit like of an uncanny valley. But here, it's just a perfect kind of, if you get emotional over Pixar movies, you get emotional over this game. You know what I mean? It's
If
like
you cried during Toy Story 3,
which
you
I did.
will bawl. I mean, everyone cried during Toy Story 3, right? You're heartless if you didn't. This game will hit. This will
I
hit
think the
home.
people that gave this a bad score definitely did not cry at the end of Toy Story
Probably they
3.
probably played without their webcams and were just blinking too,
Yeah,
or with we're just using their
you
using their
clicking on
mouse
their
and
mouse.
clicking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a fan of that. All right, moving on to the NPC award. All right, Matt,
Yes.
what do you got for the NPC award?
It has to be your BFF, Chloe.
Okay,
Um,
yep,
such
like it.
an endearing character, and I love what they do with her character, right? Because it's such a trope from like movies or really kind of any medium, whether it's book, games, or what have you, or TV shows, where you meet the childhood friend that you kind of had a thing with when you were younger, but you were so young, obviously you're not gonna act on it as kids, and then you meet again when you're in your 20s, and hey, you're at a work event, like, hey, do you want to get a drink after this and just like catch up? Like
Yeah,
that's such a trope, and like I liked that when I saw that because I was enjoying the story, but when I saw that at the same time, I almost kind of like rolled my eyes a little bit, like, of course, like it works,
yeah,
but all right. And then it totally twists that once the ferryman asks you to start, like, all right, now give me your real story, like, no more BS, right? And it's revealed that, the player's character, Benjamin, he gives them their feelings, or he gives a note to Chloe to explain his feelings, being like, you're my first love. Or he writes that in a story, rather, that Chloe ends up reading. And then in his Chloe's final visit to him, as he's laying on his, he's terminally ill at this point, basically laying on his deathbed, she goes, "All right, well, I have a gift for you, and don't open it while I'm in here. That'd be a little weird, but
Yeah.
all right, here you go, and I'll see you later, okay?" And then she leaves, and you open the letter she gives you, and it just says, "You were or to the weird kid in this
You
examine class, you were my first love
love
too."
too. Yeah. Oh, that
And
hurt.
then at that point, like, it's just waterworks. I
Yeah.
had to call my landlord, and be like, we need flood control out here. It was just
Dude,
bad.
it's good too because her as a character, as an NPC, she's very well handled, like psychologically, I think, because
Hmm.
the implication is that her mother died of either cancer or some sort of terminal illness too, and so she's very avoidant, right? Like she's super doesn't really want to visit you and is like very you're like kind of afraid to tell her these kinds of things. You avoid her, she kind of avoids you, she's upset with you, and then it kind of comes forward where she says like, hey, this is not new to me, like I experienced all this with my mom, and
And
like
the way she conveys that too and explains it is very much like how a 12-year-old too, like a 12-year-old would explain it too, or however old they are, like 11, 10. It's not like they don't like go into it like, look, I understand. Like, it's like, I've seen this before, man.
yeah,
Like,
it's
I
a
get
very
it.
like non-analytical way of saying that they of empathizing,
Yeah.
and she even like even her note to you, she doesn't say I love you. She says you were my first love too. It's almost like a third person way of saying it. It's very like indirect, which is
Hmm.
part of her psychology, right? And she even says like don't read this until I leave. So she leaves and then you get a note that says that she loved you. But she doesn't even say I loved you. She says you were my first love, which is like just a little bit of a subtle enough difference to inform her character and play on her character enough.
Right.
It's done really really well.
And I do want to mention too the voice acting. I thought for her, and really all the characters in general, are just really good. But I
Really
love the
good.
fact that like she actually sounded like a 12-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
Or a 10-year-old, or however old they were. Like, they actually sounded like a kid. Because, I mean, this is a really bad example, but like in anime, you'll hear a 10-year-old and they like sound like a full-grown
So is it
adult.
okay? Anime reference like
Or
every
even in
every
like
episode.
normal cartoons, like American cartoons, like young kids, they won't really sound like young kids all the time necessarily.
Yeah, yeah, I know
But
what you
this
mean.
voice actor, I'm not, I don't know their name, but hats off to you. I think you crushed the cadence in the voice and every part of it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, my NPC award. All right, another deep psychological character. Actually, the dad. I don't know if I caught the dad's name anywhere. I'm not sure if you would have caught it anywhere, Matt, but I think he's handled very well as a character. He shows a lot of classic dad traits. He shows frustration. He shows compromise in the face of obviously the worst thing a parent can undergo, a sick child, right? He handles it. He sort of absorbs everything and just kind of smiles through it and like, hey, bud, how you doing? How you doing? You're doing
Right? Yeah.
great, it's sort of a classic dad thing, right? It's not he's not overly emoting anything. He's like a rock, right? He just everything hits him and sinks. And it's like one might portray a dad character like that as like repressed or unemotional, but I think it like draws that really great line where it's a realistic take on a dad, to be strong, to try their hardest to like not emote too much because that's not what the moment calls for. The moment
Yes.
calls for you to be as stoic and as like smiley as possible through it all. And then, I mean, the dad has my runner-up moment, runner-up for favorite moment. This is actually the part that really hit hard for me. Is in the first part where you're living through the life that you wish you had. When your mom passes away, you're trying to paint and you can't seem to do it, and then your dad calls you up and says, "Son, I gotta sell the house." And he says like, your mom's everywhere and I just can't live here anymore. I gotta you gotta come and pick up your stuff. And it's like he's so dead. Like it
Yeah.
hurts so bad to hear him like call like that because he's like kind of a stoic guy the whole time, and that's like the biggest moment of weakness for him, and it's through a voicemail. And it's like at the moment where you can't possibly be strong anymore. you know. And I think it was just really great NPC moment for that guy.
Yeah, and again, so much of this is portrayed so well through like the voice acting and like yeah, like you mentioned, like he's so clearly kind of like he can't put on the face anymore, like he's just done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's done extremely well.
Oh,
And
so good.
very a lot of credit to these voice actors, I think, on all accounts, not just like Chloe or the dad, but everyone killed it, I think.
For sure.
Companion piece.
All right.
I'm excited to dig into this.
I know what yours is,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna let's do yours first. I'm gonna
Hmm.
give you the darkest Dark Horse companion piece pick we've
Okay.
probably ever had on Thanks for Playing.
Okay. Sick.
Okay.
So, my companion piece. This is actually a movie. Lucas introduced to me. I actually borrowed it from him from the Centurion Film Collection. Is that right?
Criterion.
Criteria.
You were close.
Criterion from the Criterion Film Collection. A movie called Boyhood, which, for those that aren't familiar with this film, it is a film shot over the course of, Lucas, help me out here, 20
12.
years?
12 years. Yeah.
No, yeah.
You were
12 years.
close.
Either way, remarkable for a movie to be shot over the course of 12 years. And what this movie does that's so different from the others is it follows one character through, no, one child through their life from boyhood into adulthood when they go off to college. And it follows this same character and it has the same cast. And you get to essentially watch these characters grow up slowly over time and kind of get to see how they develop into humans. And what's really unique about this movie too is like, you know, the plot and the like the script wasn't static. It wasn't set in stone. You know, they would talk to these people as they were, you know, growing up, and be like, okay, well, what are you into right now? Like, how can we integrate this into the character? Like, you know, what
Right.
TV shows you like? And I never forget. I think at one point, it was either like a poster or they were watching something, but I saw like Dragon Ball Z in there on the kids, excuse
And
me,
he
in the
was
kids'
the
room,
age that you
and I was
were.
like, yeah, and that's what really hit me about this movie too. Is like when it came out, it like basically in the era that he's existing in, like the 2000s, like we would have been the same age. So it's kind of like, oh, this guy is basically into the exact same things I was at that age. So
Yeah.
it just really resonated with me. And I remember it when it gets to the end. There's this one specific scene I'll never forget where another character in the movie, the mom, has a very kind of tumultuous life, going through lots of divorces, unfortunately, and multiple marriages. And when the kid's about to go off to college and the mom's just kind of sitting alone in her apartment, she has a little breakdown and she says, I just thought there'd be more than this. I thought there'd
Oh,
be more.
yeah. And then the scene
And
cuts.
the scene cuts and the kid goes off to college. And I don't know, something about that just hit me because I mean, every little part of this movie resonated with me from the the kid being the same age I would have been going through all these things to that final line from the mom being like, I thought there'd be more to life than this.
Yeah.
And it's just, it hits you so remarkably because I think especially, I mean, Lucas and I were both in our, you know, mid 20s, we're young adults. And I think we're always thinking about like how we can capitalize on life and how we kind of don't want to end up with that mentality. Right. So things like that kind of hit home, and just really resonate. And I think I highly recommend, you know, even though I kind of spoiled a lot of it just now, well, not really, but I highly recommend if you haven't watched the movie Boyhood, go watch it. It's a longer movie, like 2.5 hours, I think 2 hours, 40 minutes, but I
Yeah.
guarantee you it is a remarkable film and one that'll stick with you for a long time.
Yeah, one of my favorites too. I'm really glad that you watched that one, Matt, when I recommended it. Richard Linklater, a phenomenal director, actually does that sort of style with a lot of his movies too.
Really? Okay.
He's got a trilogy called the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and then Before Midnight, following a couple at various stages of their partnership. So in the very first movie, came out in I think '95 or '92. No, I think it might have come out in '95. They meet for the first time very young on a train. 7 years later, the next movie comes out. Same actors, exactly 7 years later within the story as well.
That's sick.
Then the third movie comes out 7 years after that. Same actors, same characters, same thing.
I love
So,
that.
long form exploration of our lives. So I guess that's the theme of Before Your Eyes. That's a kind of a thesis of the director Richard Linklater. So shouts out to him. My companion piece pick, Matthew. Are you ready?
I am
All right.
primed and ready.
I knew you'd pick Boyhood. Okay, so I need to go with something different. Something just that's just way different. All right.
All right.
I'm going with an absolute classic. This is a
Okay.
film. Horrendously underrated.
Okay.
Okay, the 2006 tragic comedy. Okay, with a criminal 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, starring. Do you know what I'm talking about yet?
No.
Kate Beckinsale, Christopher Walken, and Adam Sandler. I'm
Is
talking
it
about
Click?
Click.
Oh.
Yes.
I actually never saw Click,
Okay, okay. I saw
but I'm
Click.
familiar with the premise of the movie.
Okay, okay. It's got the whole. For those of you that haven't seen Click, I'd be very. At least everyone has seen the trailer for Click because I feel like this trailer was. It was just an extremely popular movie for the time. Actually had a budget of like 60 or 80 mil around that range, and like box office like 240 mil, some insane amount. It's tremendously successful financially movie, and I mean it's got Christopher Walken in it. Come on. Just you got to watch it. Um, Life passing you by, you trying to get to the good moments all the time, you thinking that certain moments are more important than others when it's really those little moments that make up life that are the good ones, or the moments that you forget are really the more important moments in life. I'm a sucker for that kind of theme, and I'm a sucker for Adam Sandler himself. So everybody out there, if you learn anything from this podcast episode, just don't let life pass you by too fast. Remember that life is made up of the minutia and the boring moments just as much as it's made up of those exciting moments, despite what most popular pieces of media will lead you to believe.
Yes. Yeah. Treasure everything, right? It's not just the big things we got to pay attention to in life, but it's the little things. All those little culminations, the that dinner you shared with your family one night. There was a particularly funny joke told, or that night you went to go see the movies with your friends, like little things like that, or that extra whatever it may be that happened in your life that day. Those little things is what make up life, and in combination with the grandiose things, obviously as well, like the landmark achievements. But it's the catch-all phrase, right? Appreciate the little things, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
All right. So last one of the last categories here, we got favorite moment. Let's hear it, Matt.
I already kind of spoiled it. When Chloe gives him the note, Benjamin the note, saying that they were her first love as well.
Yeah.
So heartwarming. I balled up, and just everything in it, kind of like the sadness in the scene, the sadness in her voice, kind of when she like is like, "Hey, I get it. I know what's happening." It just hits.
It hit. It just
It
hit
just
different.
hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite moment is just the very, very end, which I think we talked about already. It's just so you blink the whole time in order to do the inputs, but at the very end, you actually close your eyes completely. And there's this little thing where the ferryman says, "Just go ahead and close your eyes," like it's gonna be fine. And you close your eyes, and that's when like you hear the final line of dialogue, which is somebody. I think it's the ferryman. He goes, "Why is he smiling?" Or like he's smiling, and it's so good because like I was actually smiling when that was said, and you close your eyes for the duration until the credits hit and the music starts. So the game only ends when you close your eyes.
Yeah.
Kind of genius, if you ask me. So that was probably a favorite moment. That was a favorite moment for me.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. All right. Any nitpicks on your end, Lucas?
Honestly, I don't have any nitpicks. I didn't have, this was my personal experience. I didn't have any issues with the calibration with the blinking. It worked the entire time for me. I had a great setup with my computer. My headphones were good. I mean, all the technical aspects of the game being played were just good. No nitpicks for me with the story, obviously, and I don't view the blinking as a gimmick whatsoever.
Yeah, same boat. I had just a couple small issues, not like personally small issues, but just a couple little inconsistencies on how well I was tracking my blinking. But I at first I was kind of like gonna dock it for that, but when I think about all the other games that we've played for this podcast and like all the other little issues they have, that's like nothing compared. That's something that
Yeah,
lightly interrupted my experience two times over the course of a 2.5 hour experience. Like really not an issue at all.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So, we got. Would you play other games from this developer, Matt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, me as
Yeah.
well. I cannot wait to see what other stuff comes out, especially as we just released an episode on Anything's Possible about VR. and specifically therapy in VR. Go check that episode out. I think by the time this is aired, that episode will have been out already, so everybody can kind of go back in the feed and check it out. Um, I I'm so excited to see like if this is the kind of genius stuff that's being thought about in the VR space. I'm so looking forward to what we're going to be seeing later on.
Yeah.
Goodbye world. Keep doing what you're doing. Will, keep doing what you're doing. I think you're going to be a new phenomenal leader in interactive art.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with everything you said, and phenomenal game, and not just in games. I mean, actually, this is kind of the only game I can think of that has elicited such an emotional response from me. Actually, um, but for me, it's pretty rare to have anything kind of affect me the way this game did in the moment,
Yeah.
at least, and kind of keep me thinking about it. And this, I can already tell, like, there's a few games we played for the podcast that really stick with me just for how unique they were and how special they were in retrospect. One of them being Outer Wilds, another one being Killer 7. Games like
Hmm.
Doki Doki, things like that are just so unique to me. And this one is going to absolutely join the upper echelon for me and upper ranks of just
All
how
right.
incredible it is.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our rating. Okay.
Hmm.
It's the classic. Thanks for playing rating system. We're taking my score and your score out of 10 and adding them up, and that is the game's score out of 20.
Yes.
Okay. And it'll supersede all other scores, obviously, especially these stupid Eurogamer and Edge scores right here. Okay, Matt. Um, on three or on one, we will give our rating for the game.
Okay.
Three, two, one. 10.
10.
All right. Yeah,
Ah.
I knew it. I mean, come on. We loved this game. If you didn't expect that at the end of this episode, you're a fool.
the only
It was
thing
an
I
incredible 10 out of 10 game.
the only thing I could possibly dock it for, like I mentioned in the picks, was the blinking needing, at least on my end, maybe a little extra calibration. But with all the other issues in games we've played, I mean, for fuck's sake, I gave Cyberpunk an 8. That's like forever going to be a like, and
Nothing
that
is better
forever is
than
going to be a
eight.
stain on my like rating credibility within this podcast.
It's okay.
But incredible game. Like I just mentioned there. I find myself to be pretty stoic when I like engage in art, even if it's like something that's affecting me internally. Like I won't typically react to it that much. Um, Not only, I mean, this just blew me away, and I was not expecting to find myself bawling the way I was. I knew I was
Yeah, me
expecting an
neither.
emotional game, but to find myself crying the final 20 minutes of the game and like an extra 5 or 10 minutes, even after the credits were rolling, just reflecting on it is remarkable. And there's not a lot of, you know, art today, whether that's video games, books, TV show, or film. I think that can hit us like the way this game
I
hit myself, and I think hit
completely
Lucas as
agreed.
well.
Completely agreed. Completely agreed. All right, so that puts this game, that awards this game officially with the Mickey Legrand Coates Award for
Oh,
excellence in video game design.
so powerful.
It is so powerful. Thank you, Mickey Legrand Coates, for being awesome and being our friend with a cool name and naming a game award after. I
A
don't even
friend
think
with a
Mickey
cool
has
name.
actually heard an episode where a Mickey Legrand Coates award has
No,
been
he
given
hasn't. He
out.
has listened to some, to be fair, but yeah, he hasn't listened to any of our tens. I remember I told him like, "Hey, yo, Mickey, check out the most recent episode." I think when we did Undertale or one of the other
Yeah.
games, we gave it 10 out of 10. But yeah, really quickly, as Lucas and I give our outros here, I do want to, if anyone's in the chat still, you have the opportunity to do a little questioning if you'd like.
Q&A?
You have about 1 minute while Lucas and I finish up here. So if you get anything out in that minute, we'll answer. But all right, everyone. For the most part, I think that's all we got today. Again,
Matt,
you can find us online. I don't.
that
None
was
of
me
that.
prompting. I
I
was
know.
prompting
I
you for the
know.
Matt. Where can they find us online?
um, you can find us online as always at TFP Podcast. That's TFP Podcast with an S at the end on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us. You can email us. Thanks for playing pod at gmail.com. TikTok. Thanks for playing pod.
Forgot that we're on TikTok.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, we are on Stitcher now. So if you want to go back and revisit through Stitcher, if that's your favorite podcasting listening app, there you go. And as well, Discord. We have Discord now. Go ahead and join the Discord. You can find it in our link tree, which is also in both our Twitter and our Discord. A great way to stay in touch with me and Lucas, and as well as the TFP Army. The Thanks for Playing Squad. We're still
That's right.
still workshopping that exact language we're going to use for that one. But join the Discord. It's been fun. We're already getting a little interaction there. Shout outs to Orion for pointing out to play Eternal to us. I really do want to play that game. Returnals. It's really. Are you familiar with it? It's like a really sick roguelike.
It's a PS5 exclusive, and it's a roguelike.
Yeah,
it's one of the few.
Yes, and I am very excited to play. I heard IGN talking about it. There needs to be a PS5 available to buy.
Apparently it's very hard.
Still very difficult. So I think we'll be lucky if we get them in the next year and a half or 2 years. Honestly, at this point.
And then the game sounds, from what I hear, extremely difficult itself. So getting a PS5,
it does sound very hard.
Sounds hard. Playing this game,
the game sounds just
hard,
if not harder.
I don't know. It might be a little while before we actually get an opportunity to do this one, but looking forward to that. Thank you for the suggestion, Orion.
Yes, and then if you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GoodIdeaMatthew, and follow our YouTube channel. Thanks for playing. Lucas, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. Not really on Twitter, so actually I think I might have deactivated that one recently anyway. At Good Idea Lucas. Check me out, slide into the DMs, respond to my story, swipe up, whatever you gotta do to get a hold of me. Hit me with a game suggestion, hit me with your favorite game. What has been the most controversial opinion I've ever had, in your opinion, on this show? Let me know.
Oh, I love it. All right, everyone, this has been Thanks for Playing. Catch you next time. Skip it up.